Parties, of course, meeting for the first time in court today. It was about a 90-minute hearing.
The same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want.
Because she allegedly has had some very bad experiences with Justin Baldoni.
Judge Lehman responds to this order and he just slaps her down.
Blake Lively has lost another legal battle, making it the second time she's faced a defeat in court back-to-back. This ongoing situation is becoming more difficult for her and the lawyers working with her. It looks like all the strategies her legal team is trying are not working, and it's starting to wear them down. You can almost imagine the stress they're under, not knowing what else to do as their attempts continue to fall flat. This recent loss came after a court hearing connected to the accusations of inappropriate behavior involving her co-star, Justin Baldoni. Since then, the situation has only gotten more complicated. During the hearing, Blake's legal team tried to present evidence to support their case, but the judge completely dismissed it. That left her team in a very difficult position, unsure of how to continue. The courtroom scene was described as chaotic, almost like watching someone trying to piece together a broken vase with no success. Feeling the pressure and realizing that their case wasn't strong enough, Blake's attorneys had no choice but to ask the judge for additional time. Their goal was to revise their lawsuit and prepare something more convincing to bring back to court. This legal fight is clearly taking a toll on Blake and her team. With every failed attempt, the hope of turning the case in their favor becomes harder to hold on to. Still, they are not giving up. By asking for more time, they're hoping they can rebuild their arguments and get back into the courtroom with a stronger plan. But for now, things are not looking too hopeful, and only time will tell if they'll be able to turn things around.
We found out that Blake Lively's team, according to her attorney, is actually planning to file an amended complaint in their lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and others. According to her attorney, Michael Gottlieb, that is going to include new claims from Blake Lively, and they're going to be bringing this lawsuit against new defendants.
Judge Lyman gave them extra time until February 14th, which also happens to be Valentine's Day. It already seemed like they were lucky to get that extension, but Blake's legal team didn't stop there. They returned once again and asked for an additional delay. Even though they had already been given a fair chance, they wanted more time to prepare or respond. This move surprised many people, especially since it looked like they were already stretching things too far. Some observers think they are trying to slow things down on purpose. Others believe they just weren't fully ready and needed more time to organize their case. Either way, asking for another extension after already receiving one made it clear that Blake's side wasn't done pushing for what they wanted. Now the question is whether the judge will allow any more delays or finally decide that enough is enough.
Then filed 2 days ago for an extension. They're like, actually, we're not going to be able to make that amendment due date of February 14th.
This time, they asked for more time and requested to push the deadline to March 5th. They weren't ready to meet the original schedule, so they decided to ask for an extension. Their goal was to have additional days to finish everything properly before submitting it.
Dear Judge Lehman, February 14th, 2025 is the original default deadline for Ms. Lively to file her amended complaint. As a matter of course, in relation to responsive pleadings of Wayfarer Studios, LLC. Then they go on to say, Ms. Lively respectfully submits that an extension for filing an amended complaint, as a matter of course, to March 5th, 2025 is warranted.
They needed more time again and asked if the due date could be moved to March 5th. Since they weren't able to complete everything by the first deadline, they decided it was best to request a delay. They believed that getting a few extra days would help them do a better job and make sure all the work was completed properly. Their main aim was to avoid rushing and instead take enough time to fix any problems and check everything before handing it in. By asking for the extension, they hoped to avoid submitting something that was incomplete or full of mistakes. It wasn't that they didn't want to meet the first deadline, but things didn't go as planned, and they felt it was smarter to ask for more time than to turn in something that wasn't ready. They also understood that taking a little longer now could save them from bigger problems later. So, instead of stressing over an unfinished task, they made a careful decision to extend the deadline. They wanted to make sure that everything was done with care and attention to detail. That way, when the final work is submitted, it will meet expectations and reflect their best effort.
but he got a very strong tip from somebody regarding Jenny Slate potentially being brought into the suit.
Jenny always stood by Blake and often spoke positively about her, even calling her a close companion. She didn't believe the negative things being said and openly defended Blake in front of others. Jenny showed her support many times and strongly disagreed with the accusations people were making against Blake.
This was a statement she released. She said, "As Blake Lively's castmate and friend, I voice my support as she takes action against those reported to have planned and carried out an attack on her reputation. Blake is a leader, loyal friend, and a trusted source of emotional support for me and so many who know and love her. What has been revealed about the attack on Blake is terribly dark, disturbing, and wholly threatening," she added. "I commend my friend, I admire her bravery, and I stand by her side."
When it was time for Jenny to speak in court, she did something unexpected. Instead of supporting Blake, she reportedly denied being involved and stayed away from the legal matter. Even though she didn't want to help, Blake's legal representatives still wanted her to appear in court. They thought her testimony could help them win, especially since she had reportedly faced uncomfortable situations with Baldoni. However, many people believe that Blake's team only wanted to include more women in the case to make their claims appear stronger. But this idea didn't work out the way they hoped. When things didn't go as planned, Blake's lawyers asked for more time so they could come up with a new plan. The judge, however, wasn't convinced. When he asked why they needed extra weeks until March 5th, the lawyers gave a long explanation. They said they wanted to involve more people in the lawsuit, including a man named Jed Wallace and his business, Street Relations. According to Blake's side, Wallace had filed a 10-page legal complaint in a Texas court that overlapped with their current case. They claimed they needed additional time to deal with it properly. At first, it sounded like a fair reason, but things got complicated quickly. It turned out that Wallace, along with his company, had submitted what was considered a weak and unnecessary complaint. This raised questions about whether Blake's lawyers were using this situation just to delay the case. Then came Brian Friedman, Baldoni's attorney, who came in ready with proof. Brian had actual documents showing that earlier in January, during the California wildfires, his team had asked for an extension, but Blake's lawyers refused. Even though Blake's team had been strict before, they now expected the same favor in return. Brian pointed this out and said if they got more time now, his side would also need an extension until April 15th to prepare a response. He agreed to let them have their request, but also asked for the same in return. It seemed like a fair deal. But Brian wasn't done yet. He revealed something shocking. Blake's group had been blaming Wallace for the delays, but in reality, Blake had taken legal steps against Wallace first, almost 2 weeks before Wallace filed anything himself. This surprised everyone in court. It seemed like Blake's team was trying to trick the court by twisting the truth. Brian exposed this, and the judge didn't take it lightly. Judge Lon denied Blake's request for an entire month's extension and only gave them a single extra day to submit their updated documents. The reaction from Blake's legal group said it all. They looked disappointed, almost like they had run out of options. The judge made it clear he wasn't going to tolerate any more delays, especially without a good reason. And if that wasn't bad enough, Blake's lawyers had earlier tried to stop Brian from speaking to the press by asking for a gag order. That didn't work either. The request was denied, leaving Blake's team in an even worse spot than before.
The judge chose to not impose the gag order on Justin Baldoni's attorney Brian Friedman today, but did threaten to move up the trial if the media press war continued.
The court recently made a major decision that didn't go the way Blake's legal team had hoped. They tried to stop Brian from talking about the case in public, but the court disagreed. Now, Brian is free to speak openly about what's happening, which is the last thing Blake's team wanted. It's like they tried to control the story, but the court handed the microphone to the person they didn't want to hear from. To make matters worse for Blake's side, Justin Baldoni's legal team launched a new website. This site includes a fresh version of their legal complaint, a timeline of events that's 168 pages long, and even text messages between the people involved in the case. Some of the messages reportedly involve Ryan Reynolds, Blake's husband. In one message, Ryan seems excited about the movie It Ends With Us, telling Justin that it's going to be amazing and that he adores him. These private messages are now public for everyone to see. Blake's legal team was clearly not happy about this. They immediately asked the court to shut down the website. However, the court didn't agree with their request. The reason? Blake's team had already taken their story to the media, including big names like the New York Times. So, the court saw no reason to stop Baldoni's team from doing the same. If one side is allowed to go public, the other side should be allowed to share their version too. This is just the latest setback for Blake's team. Every legal move they've made so far seems to have gone wrong. Instead of helping their case, each step they take seems to hurt it more. With the court now allowing Brian to speak freely and the other team releasing loads of evidence, it's starting to look like Blake could actually lose this case. And there's a lot on the line. The lawsuit involves $400 million, a huge amount of money, even for someone as wealthy and successful as Blake and her husband Ryan Reynolds. With so much at risk, every mistake becomes even more serious. It's clear that the pressure is building, and people are beginning to wonder just how much more Blake's legal team can handle before everything falls apart. The situation is intense, and things are moving fast. The public is watching closely, and opinions are already forming. Some people are starting to believe that Baldoni's team has a stronger case. Others think the drama is getting out of hand. So what do you think? Is Blake's team in trouble, or do they still have a chance to turn things around? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss more celebrity news. I'll see you in the next video.